Hello, everyone. I feel like I owe you a bit of an explanation as to why I have been gone over the past about a week. I think it's almost been 2 weeks since my last upload. And I certainly apologize for that right off the bat. But this video I want to be an explanation about why I took a break and why I took a break when I did. Of course, as you guys are well aware, I'm sure, because you're subscribers. This is the biggest time of the year for my channel. It's the Indy 500, even if it's happening in August. Now, that being said, I'm going to talk about a lot of things. I'm going to vent a lot in this video. But I feel like I should give this disclaimer that a lot of people are going through a lot of stuff right now. I'm certainly not unique in that. Not just in the racing industry, but across the world. There are a lot of people who have it a lot worse than I do. And I will certainly acknowledge that up front right before I kind of vent a little bit. But for my own mental health and, for the benefit of you guys, I would like to talk about this. And hopefully, once I kind of get it all out of my system, I'll feel a lot better about coming back and making content. Because that's definitely what I'm going to be doing this weekend, making content about the Indy 500. Because this is my job, this is what I want to do, and I have that obligation to you guys to create that content. But that being said, this is the Obligation 500 this year. This is, the least fan-friendly Indy 500 since 1945, when they canceled the race, the last year that they canceled the race for World War II. It's honestly that bad. And maybe some of you will say 1996, but I would argue that not only could you go to the Indy 500 that year and all the practice days, but you had a whole nother race that you could have gone to if the Indy 500 wasn't your cup of tea in Michigan. So easily this is the most, or the least fan-friendly Indy 500 of all time. And it sucks because this Indy 500 absolutely had to happen, whether it happened with fans or without fans. For the state of the series, for the state of the sport, for the state of the sponsors, drivers, crew members, all the people involved with making this sport happen, they could not take the financial hit of this race not happening. And I think, as probably as fair as it would have been to everybody to just cancel it, to postpone it until next year, that wasn't a realistic opportunity. I think we all need to acknowledge that, accept that, and move on from that particular point. That being said, there are a lot of things to complain about how this has been handled. There are a lot of things that absolutely suck about this, and I'll list a few. First of all, like I said, least fan-friendly month of Indy 500 ever. I almost said month of May, but month of August also doesn't work because it's only about a week of practice. The only way anybody could watch practice legally was on the NBC Gold app, which I think they discounted to $40 for a subscription fee, which obviously isn't a horrible amount of money to ask, and certainly it's not bad content, but it certainly does suck that you have to tell fans you can't go, you can't enjoy the racetrack, but at the same time, give us $40. To me, in that particular regard for practice and some of qualifying, they were not taking care of their customers, and they being the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, that being said, was there another option available? Probably not. But it sucks. It really does suck. Going off of that, the fact that the days were reduced. I think there's only about 4 days of practice, and even then, the time has been reduced. So even if you do buy that NBC Gold subscription to watch practice, you're getting less than you did last year for the same price, which, again, not fan-friendly. It sucks. And obviously, the big one, the fact that there are no fans, period, all month, including the race itself. Now, The next couple of things I'm going to say are pretty controversial, but I'm going to say them because, quite honestly, I think we need a little bit more honesty when people are discussing things. And I can speak directly from experience on a lot of these things. And a lot of the information that I've been given on this subject isn't really out there for public consumption. So I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm obviously not going to name names or anything, but trust me when I say some of these things, you're getting the truth. They could have absolutely done the Indy 500 this year with 25% capacity, which is about 90,000 people. Absolutely 100% could have done it. Could have done it safely. I'll even go as far as to say that with the current plan and the current restrictions and the current things that IMS was doing to prepare that facility for 25% capacity, I think you had a better chance of getting struck by lightning in there than getting COVID-19. I'll say it that strongly, even if that is a bit hyperbolic. But I can speak from experience because I spent more or less 4 entire days in that facility. I spent one there for the Jimmy Johnson test, and then I spent 3 days, I think, or maybe it was even 4 days, in the facility, sleeping overnight within the facility for the battle at the Brickyard at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I can tell you with complete sincerity, complete honesty, and with my complete experience that facility, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, they were ready and prepared to have fans, to have 25% capacity. They could have done it. They should have done it. Ultimately, and despite what you may have read, it doesn't tell you the whole story. There are a couple of vague quotes out there from Mark Miles and even Roger Penske today talking about case numbers being the ultimate reason that they made that decision, and I don't want to discount that that wasn't something that crossed their mind when they made the decision to get rid of fans entirely. But I can tell you, and again, this was not information that I necessarily pried people for. It was volunteered to me from different sides of this spectrum as well, or different sides of, I need to say, be very careful, from different sides of this particular issue. And that is that ultimately, Indianapolis Motor Speedway was going to run this Indy 500 with fans, and pardon my French, but they got their balls squeezed. There were a couple of partners, influential partners, that were going to deny them key services that would have made it unsafe to run with fans if they decided to run with fans. And ultimately, they had to make the right decision for the betterment of the public. Otherwise, they would have run a completely unsafe race. COVID risk, obviously also taken into account there. But again, they could have run with fans. I think they absolutely wanted to run with fans. Otherwise, why would they have canceled a week and a half before practice? I mean, let's read between the lines here a little bit. But anybody blaming IMS for this outcome, you're barking up the wrong tree, because ultimately it sucks that they made the decision that that was not fan friendly, and there are certainly a lot of things that they could have done differently for the benefit of the fans. But at the end of the day, they at least tried, and I think you have to give them credit for that. And if you're angry, I understand, and quite honestly, you're going to hear a little bit more in this video. I completely agree with you, but at the end of the day, this was a decision they had to make. So understand and respect that on my particular end. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. Now, that being said, that's not the entire reason that I took my break. I certainly did not take a break from YouTube just because the Indy 500 wasn't going to run with fans. And we've got a countdown. I'm going to have to do that a couple times because I'm using my DSLR. But I did not... the reason I took a break was not because of some boycott. Believe me, if I wanted to boycott this race, you would have heard about it. I specifically took my break. I tried to take my break in the way that I did as to not cause too much of a fuss, because I knew there were going to be some people who absolutely just wanted to enjoy this for what it was, and I felt like I should totally respect that. Completely irregardless of my personal problems and some of my personal feelings towards this particular event, this particular year. And so, that's just again, kind of the way things went. But so this is kind of where we get into personal things. This, and I always try, it's weird because my name is on the channel, but I don't really consider this like a vlog or anything. This isn't about my personal life. To a certain extent, obviously, there are some things of my personal life I share. Usually those are things that involve racing. If I go to a race like Battle of the Brickyard, I've got some sponsors, you're certainly going to see that. If someone offers me a Formula Ford ride like Charles Anty did, you're going to see that. But, personal life things, ordinarily you don't see very much of. But I feel like it's necessary, especially because I didn't give you guys an explanation before I took my break, to give you guys an explanation of everything that's been going on in my life. Really, prior to the lockdown, obviously a lot of these things were accelerated by the lockdown, and have just kind of led to just a need to take a bit of a break, which I already have done. So as you guys know, beginning of this year, I made a bit of a content change. I decided that it would be an awesome way and an innovative way to cover races as a YouTuber. And the reasoning behind that was a couple of reasons. Number one, no one else on the YouTube platform was really doing it, and I thought that was a great way to kind of get in. I thought, how cool would it be if a YouTuber goes to the Rolex 24, the Long Beach Grand Prix, the Brickyard 400, the Indy 500, 12 Hours of Sebring, all of these big races, and is at all of them. And I, just was like, is this even possible? Can I do this? And also because I saw some great success in 2019 when I did just that, when I went to the racetrack, when I made my own observations, did some of my own reporting, even though I know that's a sore subject sometimes when you're a YouTuber and you say you're reporting. But ultimately, who else in the media was telling you that Fernando Alonso was in trouble of getting bumped? That was because I saw it with my own eyes, and I reported that to you. So, I reached out to some of my contacts within media, across motorsports media, and was just like, who do I need to reach out to get my foot in the door, get credentialed, be official, and work a lot more closely with some of the series that I cover. And, full credit to my friends. They all gave me great information. And virtually every series in this country, every major sanctioning body, was incredibly open and, quite honestly, excited to work with me, bring me in, and have me and my platform and you, the viewers, let into their facility. And this is going to be kind of hard to say because it kind of is antithetical to some of my own personal code, but I'll explain why I'm saying this. The one series that didn't respond, and it really surprised me, and I sent emails to several different people within this organization, and I still am flabbergasted that I did not even get a, no, was IndyCar. Reached out to IndyCar, several different people there, I'm not going to name names, but, and just heard absolutely nothing. And that surprised me. Obviously, I think you guys know that my IndyCar coverage is kind of the bread and butter of this channel. And, again, it's not like they're unaware of me at this point. I can say that with an awful lot of certainty. And it's kind of crazy that I have been official IndyCar media 3 times, or at least my platform has been. Those times were the April Indy 500 test in 2019, the Circuit of the Americas test, in which I was unfortunately not able to go myself, but I sent a cameraman who was local there to film some B-roll for me, and then the St. Petersburg Grand Prix of this year, which of course got postponed. And I think if you look back at that content, you will see the numbers, and they speak for themselves. When I have gone and put in the effort, been at IndyCar races, especially when I'm officially credentialed, I do really, really good numbers. So again, it just surprised me quite a bit. And you wouldn't even be hearing about this if we were under normal circumstances. I have seen in the past that many people have whined and screamed and cried and caused a big social media fuss because either they were getting denied credentials with IndyCar or they were getting ignored by IndyCar. I've looked at that and have said, that's not for me. That's not something I really want to be associated with. That's not, I don't want to be the guy who, got in because he was whining and crying on social media. Fair play to you if, you're one of those people who have done that and that's how you've gotten in. But quite honestly, to me, I would much rather have a professional relationship with these racing series that I hopefully will be working with. So why am I telling you this? Well, ultimately, my thought process was eventually this channel, this platform, my viewership will get so large that they won't be able to ignore me anymore. So, I just shrugged my shoulders and said, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to put in the effort. I'm going to put in the days. I'm going to pay my dues. And eventually, the free market will determine that I get in. And I'm in. And unfortunately, we had the COVID lockdown. And we're still in it, technically. I mean, we're pretty much still in it. And that has essentially eliminated the free market. Where we are right now, and again, this is going to, step on some toes, whatever. Local governments and mega corporations now determine who is essential and who is not essential. And that's just the way things are right now. And it is frightening, again, mentioning 1945, to see some of the most authoritarian, sweeping regulations come down the pipe when you are essentially, I am essentially a small business owner. So it's very difficult. That's been an enormous stress on me, is that I can't really do what I set out to do because of what's going on in the world. And again, it's the same for everybody. Or no, it's not the same for everybody. But there are a lot of people in my shoes. I'm not going to pretend like I'm the only person who is experiencing this. But because I'm independent, I can say some of the things that other people can't. And kind of going off of that, I don't necessarily think the reason, IndyCar doesn't respond to my emails is because they have anything personal against me. I don't want to put that out in the universe. Ultimately, I think it just comes down to whoever is calling the shots there doesn't value social media platforms. I think you guys can clearly see that. If you look, I don't necessarily think it's because, David Land takes views away from the IndyCar YouTube channel when he shows up to races. I don't think it's that. I think it's just because they don't value this YouTube platform, which, you can say that's a smart decision or whether it's not. And whether, regardless of my personal feelings, how I perceive that they view things, I can tell you this. This platform is incredibly valuable. And I'll tell you a little story. Again, this is telling you why I think this platform is so valuable and why I fight for it so much. When I was having, at the end of all of this, kind of during my break, I was having one of the lowest moments. It was the day before practice for the Indy 500. I'm sitting alone in a room, just head in hands, thinking, like, what am I going to do? I'm like, I'm completely screwed. I honestly was feeling that way. And I got a text, and I won't say who it's from, but you know who you are, and believe me, you have no idea how much this meant to me. I get a text from a star IndyCar driver who completely unsolicited sent me a preview of something that's coming down the pipe that he thought I would think is really cool. And I was just this incredible moment, and I'm sitting here kind of belly aching and feeling sorry for myself, and yet because of the hard work I put in, because of the heights that I've reached here, I have, on the night before practice begins for the Indy 500, a driver who has a legitimate shot to win the race could be texting anybody in the world. He texts me, and so don't tell me that this platform isn't valuable, because I've had a lot of other low moments in my life, and things like that were not happening at the same time I was having those low moments. This is an incredibly valuable platform. Incredibly valuable. So, obviously, the lockdown was a major frustration for me, because I had all these plans, and, they were all getting completely wrecked. But it looked like there was light at the end of the tunnel. And that's why I planned this 5-week trip that was going to take me from the Jimmy Johnson test at Indianapolis Motor Speedway all the way to the Gateway race in St. Louis. I made that commitment. I said, you know what? Things look like they're getting a little bit better. Looks like some of these lockdown restrictions are lifting. And ultimately, the Indy 500 is the crown jewel of pretty much everybody's season. I need to be there. I need to be there. So this is when things kind of started going wrong in my personal life. So the Jimmy test went completely fine. Couldn't complain. The numbers were great. Got to work with my friends at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum to promote the Andy Granatelli exhibit that they're having there. Actually having there right now, so you should go check it out. But that was great. That was great. And things were looking good. After the Jimmy test, I was set to head over to Ohio to hang out with my friend Kyle, Racing Nation TV, and help not only prepare my go-kart to race at the Battle at the Brickyard, but also to start covering the Road to Indy races, which they were doing 2 races at Mid-Ohio before another 3, I think, during the IndyCar weekend. So I started heading up there in my Subaru Impreza, my 06 Subaru Impreza, which I picked out myself. Love that car. Love that car. And unfortunately, I hear a pop. I'm on I-70 in Indianapolis, just leaving the city. Hear a pop, have to pull over, engine's dead. Find out it's a timing belt, and in Subaru Imprezas, that means the engine has blown itself to hell. So that sucks. That really, really sucks, because I'm here in Indianapolis, not where I live, which is currently New Jersey, where I'm sitting right now. So my car is blown up, and the guy at the repair shop says, look, we can repair the car, we can put a new engine in it, but it's going to have 129,000 miles, and it's going to cost more than the car is worth to do this work. So pretty much, my car is totaled, and this isn't something that's like, there's no insurance for that, unfortunately. So I'm boned, pretty much, in terms of a car. So I rent a car. I mean, like, my friend Steve came down, picked me up, and took me over to the rental car place. And I rented a car and started heading to Ohio, because it's like, look, that sucks, but I have a responsibility. This is important to me. I want to get this done. I want to keep going. And it, that's a big setback, but it wasn't something that stopped me. It wasn't something that made me go, I can't do this anymore. No, I kept going. So I missed the day at Mid-Ohio, covering the Road to Indy. That sucked. But the next day, got to be there, got to check out what was going on with the Road to Indy, and start preparing some content for IndyCar weekend at Mid-Ohio. Then I helped Kyle and his dad prep everything, get everything loaded up in the trailer to head to Indianapolis, and then we headed to Indianapolis that night. Ran Battle at the Brickyard. I won't say it went well, because my kart wasn't particularly competitive, But that was the least of my problems. I get a text from a friend of mine, and who would have been privy to this information, and says, "Oh my God, they just canceled Mid Ohio," and I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!" So as it turns out, they canceled Mid Ohio, or they postponed Mid Ohio, not canceled it. But even if it happens, I bet it happens in an incredibly limited capacity. I bet there's no fans there. So essentially, for all intents and purposes, Mid Ohio is canceled. So that was a hit, no doubt about it, because now suddenly you're going, okay, I had a whole extra week planned of content to do in Ohio, and now I cannot do that content. So I go to Plan B, and Plan B is stay in Indianapolis and find a new car. And if you've ever shopped for a car, you know that experience is incredibly stressful. It's no fun. There's everybody's giving you the hard sell, and you just kind of have to put up and put up or shut up with it. It's car buying. I wish they made that experience a lot better, but it was, again, just trying to make the best of the situation that I was given. And then we get the first announcement that really hit home and really started to, this is when things started to get to me, was when they announced no fans at the Indy 500. And again, for someone who if you don't go to the Indy 500 and you don't understand what that race means to someone who essentially, the Indy 500 isn't just a race to me. It's essentially a family reunion. My grandmother and grandfather bought tickets starting in like 1985. They actually went the year before in 84, but ultimately the tickets that we have to the Indy 500 began in 1985. And since then, it has essentially been a family reunion for my family. We all get together, or as many of us that can get together as possible do, and it's a wonderful time. It's a great time to catch up with your family, with your close friends, and that's what makes the Indy 500 so great. And again, people who haven't gone to the race don't understand that. So the fact that in these times when you can't see your loved ones for X, Y, or Z reasons, the fact that one of the few excuses, at least for me, to see some of my family members after a long period of time, a long stressful period of time, that going away, that really sucked. And I was really sad about that for a couple of days. But at the same time, again, my attitude was, I'm going to keep going. We're not out of the woods yet. Things aren't great, but, I still have contact with IMS. As far as I was aware at that time, based on my communication with them, I was still in the clear to get media passes to cover the race. So I was like, okay, this could be worse. So after the no fans announcement, I bought my new car, which is a Honda Civic Sport Coupe. It's a pretty good little car. I have to give you a quick review there. I like it. Especially because it's the last model year for that particular car. Hopefully we'll have some resale value down the line, or at least be somewhat of a collector's item or a cool car to have. But I bought that car partially because it was a commitment. I know I need a car to travel around to races to. And, obviously adding a car payment to your expenses is a burden, but it was something that, again, just going to keep pressing on. And of course, this is something I have pretty much told no one except for some of my close friends and family. But one of the other reasons I was going on that Indy trip was, obviously not just to cover, aside from covering the race, was to actually house hunt in Indianapolis. I think for what I do, I think it's very important to live there, closer to the action. And I was, it sucked that I was unable to continue to move closer to the commitment level that I want to have for this channel because my car blew up. So that, couple of different stresses there, just the added car payment and the fact that I was unable to, find a place to live. That sucked. But I was still going for it. It's like, this could be worse. Then it started to get even more worse because I got an email from Indianapolis Motor Speedway that said, your media credential access has been denied. A lot of people got these, okay? Not pretending like I'm the only person who got one of these emails. And you may be saying, by the way, well, David, earlier in this video, you were talking about how you and IndyCar have no communication. Well, me and IndyCar don't have any communication. I have a few contacts at Indianapolis Motor Speedway that I actually can communicate with, and they actually are great to work with. And you may be a bit surprised by that if you're kind of an outsider, and I'll explain it this way. IndyCar and IMS, while they have some crossover between them, essentially operate as separate entities. So for whatever reason, IMS is easier to get credentials with than IndyCar itself, which is kind of interesting, but that's, the way things go. And, not going to super put a bunch of blame on Indianapolis Motor Speedway or the people working there. They were obviously under extremely difficult circumstances. But it definitely sucked as someone who had already committed to be there and was there already to find out, oh no, you cannot be here. It would have been nice to have a little bit of heads up that, hey, maybe I'm on the bubble before then. But again, while that absolutely sucked for me, I can't really hold, I can't hold any grudge there. They were in a bad situation. No doubt about it. But, I was still pushing on. I'm like, I'm going to make the best of this. I'm going to go home. I'm going to start streaming after every practice session. We're just going to keep going because it's, this is the Indy 500. This is the biggest revenue thing of the year for me. And, it just is what it is this year. I can accept whatever decision IMS makes. No problem. But I decided, since it was on the way home, to stop at my grandparents' lake cottage. Unfortunately, both my grandparents have passed on in the last 5 or so years, so their lake cottage, while still available to the family, is a little bit in limbo. But the reason I went up there was because some of my family members, namely my brother and my sister and their significant others, were up there, and it would have been a great opportunity, or it was a great opportunity, to go meet with them, hang out with them, and make up a little bit of the lost time that we had during the 500, or would have had during the 500, them coming down to watch the race with us. That turned out to be another mistake, and this was kind of the final nail in the coffin for me, was that I got a text that my dear cat Dakota, and I've already talked about this in a community tab page, so I don't have to get too much into it, but my cat Dakota was not doing well, and his health had rapidly declined. And the next morning, I got the text that he had passed away. And I felt incredibly guilty and incredibly distraught about that because, I had picked Dakota out of the Johnson County, Indiana Animal Shelter in 2004. And he had been my little friend, my little buddy, since then. And I had taken care of him. He relied on me, for comfort, for food, for everything. And the fact that I had gone on this trip and so much wrong had happened to me and so much, loss already. Now I'd lost my cat, and I hadn't been there for him to comfort him in his final, minutes, hours, days. It just, there was a snap in the brain, and it was like, I can't take this right now. I can't put up with it. And I knew that I was not in the right headspace. I was not in the right mood to talk about the goings on at the 500. I mean, there were just, and you know, had I gone on, I would have probably misplaced a lot of my grief on things that didn't have a whole lot to do with it. So I'm glad I didn't. I'm sure some of you are not particularly as happy that that I, you know, took that break, but I really did need it. And I'm still not sure what I'm going to do, to be honest with you. The next couple of days, for sure, I'll be making content about the Indy 500, no doubt about it. I wasn't going to let that one slide. But going forward, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I may have to change the content again because I don't know how long this lockdown is going to go. It's all very difficult right now. I guess, you know, there are some possibilities still for at-the-track coverage. There's stuff like the IMSA races, hopefully stuff like the Sebring 12 Hours, the Road Atlanta races. Those could be opportunities. There's some Road to Indy opportunities to cover as well. And, you know, theoretically, I still have media access to the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. If that happens, if I'm able to go to that, I feel like that would be a good bookend for the year. Just based on the fact that you know, that was an event that I was at. I was ready to go, and things got screwed up. So I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough. And again, it's tough for a lot of people. But I felt like I needed to, you know, get some of this out there, let you guys know what's going on with me, because a lot of tough things are happening right now, and you know, it's a difficult world to live in. It's a miserable world to live in, and I'm hoping that, even though it's different, this year's Indy 500, even if it is the obligation 500, will be enough or satisfying enough that it will keep me going for the rest of the year. And hopefully we can look at a 2021, fingers crossed, that looks a little bit more normal. I don't know. That you know, things could just get worse, and things could continue to be this way for a long time. I don't know. But thank you guys for getting to the end of this. 37 minutes, almost 38 by the time I'll be done with it. Yeah, if you got to the end of this, you're a true fan, because talked about a lot. Not a lot of it was particularly fun to listen to, I bet. But Indy 500 content coming tomorrow, and that's going to be fun. And it's going to hopefully feel a little bit more normal than it has on this channel in quite a while. So I'm looking forward to that. Got a couple streams coming this weekend as well. I hope to see you guys there for that. Going to be talking about everything to do with the Indy 500, and we'll see you in the next video. I'm not going anywhere just yet. Sorry to disappoint you.